it really is amazing when you bring the whole brain to the table. It's so enriched by the pleasures and the joys of creativity. And it's not just three-dimensional art. It's music. It's, as I said, poetry. It's anything creative. It's building, it's cooking. It's building a swing set for your child. It's thinking of a conversation you could have later, or calling someone and trying to cheer them up. There are all kinds of things that bring the whole brain into full use. And it does, those circuits that have withered, you can actually feel them reestablishing themselves. And it is magical.
Amazing. So that brings me to another theory that I've been studying and thinking about recently, and that is aging and how anti-aging obsessed our culture is. And I think I actually would like to change that, because I think that we shouldn't be against aging. We should flow with it.
Right.
And it led me to a feminist philosopher who wrote a book called In a Different Voice.
Oh, Barbara, what was her name?
Carol Gilligan.
Carol Gilligan. I love her. I was at Harvard at the same time she was. I love her.
So here's what her theory is, that somewhere around 12 and 13, girls start to adapt their voice to please the patriarch.
Right.
And what I know from a hormonal standpoint, well, that makes perfect sense, because your hormones are coming in. And so now you're thinking through a hormonal lens. Well, then I started thinking, well, what happens at the backside when we go into menopause and the hormones come out? Is that the moment that we are actually primed to come back to our authentic thoughts?
Fabulous.
Right?
That is really interesting. Yeah, I think it's interesting because only two kinds of animal that they know of have females that live long beyond reproductive years, humans and elephants. And when I've been around wild elephants in South Africa, the matriarch is always the wisest and the calmest of the post-menopausal elephants. And all the bulls and everything is sort of governed by that wisdom. And they all just accept that. And I love the idea that the leader is chosen from the is female, first of all, and then postmenopausal second.
That's right.
And if we could think about that, I always say I want to be an elder, but I don't want to be elderly. I want to be an elder, not an older, Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we can get eld. Let's get eld. It's less.
We need to get eld. But here's the thing that I've been thinking about, Martha, is like, what if every menopausal woman understood where she was going, that in your postmenopausal years, you have this phenomenal brain. You get to come back to your authentic self so you can undo what the patriarch told you that you needed to do. Yes. And this is actually the time in which the amygdala no longer is searching for fight or flight. It's more geared towards empathy. And we know that from Lisa Mosconi's research. So what if these postmenopausal years are actually our greatest years? We just have to look at this from a very different lens. And maybe it's doing what you're saying. We've got to bring the right side of that brain back online and be highly creative to find our authentic voice.
I totally agree. And it reminds me of when my son was born. He has Down syndrome. They told me little girls with Down syndrome are much more verbal typically because females use more of the whole brain. And there's more crossover between right brain, left brain. So they have more to draw on for speech. Yeah. And I believe that continues throughout life, that we're using our whole brain. Like when the fight or flight instinct is studied in women, because it wasn't studied in women for many, many years, they found that in men, threat triggers fight or flight hormones. In women, it triggers fight, flight, and all the tend and befriend hormones like oxytocin, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which means that when under threat, a man will fight or run. A woman will fight, run, and make sure everyone has a sweater and a sandwich. There's more going on there. And I do believe that's why many ancient people got their wisdom from older women.
Yeah.
So
you know what that leads me to is a question. We're back at curiosity.
Oh, good.
What does wisdom look like? How would I see wisdom on somebody's face, on somebody's essence? How do I measure
love
that?
that question. I think the word that comes up for me is radiance. And I have
With the
seen
vibration.
certain women, like I was there, I got to be in the audience when Oprah did her very last show. And I'd been on the show before and I'd seen her many times, and she is tremendous. She has huge energy, just massively powerful, sort of energetic field that surrounds her. But when she came on that stage, and the night before I heard her say she'd gotten up early, she'd meditated for hours, she'd written every word of the script herself, and she was in total peace. In fact, one of her assistants told me she was worried Oprah's not nervous enough. And she was embodying the full ancient divine feminine. And when that curtain opened and she walked out, it was like there were lights on her, but there was a radiance coming from inside her that you couldn't deny. And I've seen that in people who are dying. I've seen it in people who have suddenly been given permission to have the life that their soul knows that they wanted. I've seen it in people getting out of a marriage, getting into a marriage. People glow when women glow when they are in a space of wisdom.